Oh, did you solve it?
Got it.
Wow, that's impressive.
That was a minute.
That's
that was a minute.
impressive. In under a minute, you solved that Rubik's Cube.
Well,
how long have you been Rubik's Cubing for?
2019? 2018, maybe? 2019, probably.
You started in 2018. Wow.
Chris, it's not hard. You just got to remember patterns and then do the pattern every time.
What is the pattern?
Well, there's multiple ones. Get one side. You're like, basically I always go with white, or like whatever.
Yeah.
You got your white there, and then you got to get your sides up at the top, then your corners, flip it over, then you start doing sequences, and that's when you got to memorize stuff. At the beginning, it's kind of more of you have to figure it out yourself. But.
I see. At the beginning, you gotta get a solid side, and then once you get the solid side, I see. And then the pattern depends on the color that you get. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So different. Like eventually, you get to the yellows, and there's no yellows up there, obviously. So yeah, like if you get like a yellow line right there, you do a certain sequence to get a different pattern of yellow, and then whatever that comes up with, you do a different pattern. But you just got to remember the patterns.
Fair enough. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. It's another Wednesday night for I'm Probably Wrong. Today we're talking about the greatest GOAT films of all time, which GOAT stands for greatest of all time, a super overused expression that I don't know about you, Bobby, but I loathe that term in just it's like such a stupid term. I don't know about you, Chris. What are your thoughts on the expression GOAT?
I liked it when black people came up with it before other people started to overuse it.
It came from the black community?
Sure did.
Wow.
And then it got overused, and now it's used by everyone.
Who originally used it?
I'm not sure who the first person was, but it was like to describe it came from like hip hop to like describe like greatest rapper of all time, and then it would just be like the GOAT MC, and then it just became everybody started to use it, and now it's annoying.
Yeah, it sounds like a Kanye thing.
The greatest of all time, probably. Yeah.
I just hate it because it's the greatest of all time, meaning that there's only one greatest of all time, but there's multiple GOATs. So how does that even work? It's like the word epic. You know how everything was epic for a while?
Oh God, I'm glad that's
but it means like once in an epoch, but everything was epic.
Right. Yeah.
Figure that one out.
Yeah. It was demystified, like awesome. Because awesome, like awe-inspiring, but it's just everything's awesome now. But yes, we did want to talk about the greatest films of all time, and but films that have inspired us in our understanding. So not necessarily what's the critically the most successful film of all time or anything like that, but our favorite films of all time. Oh, good evening to Thomas. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So if you want to include your favorite films, please do so as well. Chris, how are your legs after our 13,000? I looked at my phone. It was 13,000 steps.
13,000 steps? I honestly felt nothing. Like my legs were fine for that day, and then the next day, no soreness at all.
Nice.
Impressive.
Nice and strong legs.
Oh yeah.
Well, next time you can take Sophia and then
we'll balance it out.
Yeah, man. I was feeling it. But that was a good time. We saw a baby bear.
We did.
Ooh.
Yeah. Chris jinxed himself. He's like, I've never seen a bear. And then we turned a corner and there was a baby bear looking at
right
us.
there.
Like, shit. We might want to be careful here.
Yeah. Backed up. Yeah. Went on his way.
I had a dream recently that we were out for a walk, me and my family, but my family's a bunch of kind of oblivious lunatics. So one of our dogs, she's really small. And so in my dream, it was like, oh, nice, a baby bear. Cool. And it was like, no, that means there's a mom around. We got to save it. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. And then we got home and there was a bear in the house and it attacked me and I lost. So lost that survival round.
Well, I had a dog growing up. He was a border collie, and his actual name was Rascal, aptly named because he would like terrorize things. And we had a little cabin on the island, and it was like in the middle of nowhere, and black bears would come down. And because he was like a sheepdog, he would herd the black bears, and he would like nip at them and stuff. It was crazy. And then this big black bear would be like, what the hell is this thing doing? And then it would just retreat. It's crazy. And then he got killed by a cougar, but not like one that you find in South Surrey, like an actual like big mountain lion.
Wow.
Cougar.
Not a Gabby's cougar.
Not the cougar. Not the cougar that we're familiar with. Yeah. So, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We have Chris Francisque, my favorite thespian, my favorite actor. That's a fancy word for actor. I don't know if you guys knew that. And we have Bobby. Have you ever heard thespian? That's a Jeopardy question.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it means.
It's like a word for actor. And then we have my
sapien.
No, is it spelled like that? I think it is spelled like that.
No,
thespian. It's THESBIN. Of or relating to dramatically or tragically acting. This says a lesbian, but that's bullshit. That's not the actual definition of the word.
Nope.
Why do people got to be changing the definitions of words? Anyways, and then we have Bobby, my favorite painter of all time.
There we go.
Yeah, you should see him paint, man. The guy's amazing.
Machine.
So, guys, how are you guys doing this evening?
Good. Not bad. Tired. I was painting all day in the direct sun, so yeah.
Me
a little
too.
draining.
Me too. I paint all over me as well. It's still all over my hands and stuff. Yeah. So
I had a what I thought, I don't know if you can see that. I still don't know where my camera is. But I thought I had a sliver today. It turns out I cut myself and just got paint in it. But the funny part is I was sitting there in the shower just going like this, like, oh, why don't this thing come out? And I'm trying to push out this sliver. Turns out it was paint. Oh,
that's a pleasant surprise though, because I hate slivers.
Yeah, but I was basically cutting myself open trying to get this fucking sliver, like with my nail. I was digging it in. I'm like, what the fuck?
Did you get it off though?
No, it's still kind of there. I don't know how to get paint out of my skin.
Oh yeah. Well, doesn't goof off work?
Yeah, but in an open cut, maybe that might sting just a little bit.
Yeah, or get like drunk or something like that. Just pour turpentine directly on it. So Chris, you are an actor, and that's why I'm so grateful that you could join us today to tell us about the film that. Well, first of all, what was the moment in your life that you were like, I want to get into acting?
Other than professionally, there wasn't a moment, there wasn't a movie where I was just like, oh, now I want to do this. I just always was acting in some form before I knew what to call it. So there was no moment other than like when I decided to take it on as a career, which was like later on in life. But like as a kid, I just would naturally act, and I was just doing theater through like elementary school and high school, and it was never a conscious choice until later.
But you knew you had like a skill for it, like a.
I knew I could. I knew I could make people feel what I wanted them to. Like I knew I could act whatever the scene required. Back then, when I was little, it was usually like just making people laugh. I was able to do that really easily. And it was, to me, it was just, oh, I can make people laugh very easily. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm acting. It was just, I know how to do voices. I know how to do skits. I know how to do all of these things that naturally people would just call acting.
So the profession of acting, I'm familiar with the term a method actor, and that means that they essentially become the role. Daniel Day-Lewis being one of the most popular examples of a method actor. He became Abraham Lincoln. He apparently during Gangs of New York, he refused to take contemporary medicine, and he got like tuberculosis or something like that while being in New York. And anyways, there's method acting. And wait, it seems like you have thoughts on that. Shaking your head.
It annoys me, like when people go to that extent. Now, granted, if that's what gets you the performance, but like the fact that you have to like do all of that just to get a performance, I'm like, or there's a great funny clip on YouTube where Sir Ian McKellen, who I don't know what people would know him from, whether it's like
X-Men,
Gandalf from Lord of the Rings or Magneto from X-Men. Those are probably his two biggest credits.
What did you tell him, Eric?
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
You should have killed me when you had the chance.
You shall not pass. That one. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking to like it was an acted out skit, but he was playing himself, and he's talking to Ricky Gervais, who's also British. And like he's explaining how acting works, and it's so funny because all he goes, he's like, you're literally going to read the lines on the page and you're going to interpret them as you would if you were in that time period or whatever. And Ricky's just like, oh, like he's expecting some like fancy answer, and he's just like, you're gonna read the words and then you're gonna pretend to be that. And that's all it is. Like people who have to do all of this extra stuff to be like, yeah, I can't take this medication. What's his name? Jared Leto, when he played Joker, which was a horrible portrayal, by the way.
Oh, he fucked
that was awful. But they were like, he was like leaving dead animals in people's dressing rooms, like, and I was just like, do you really need to do all that?
He became a joke.
Yeah, it was just like, for me, I'm just like, it's just a pretentious thing that like actors who take themselves very seriously like to do. The only thing for me is like there's a difference between research and method acting. Research is if like I was playing like an addict and I don't have any experience with that. So you go to like you go to like a whatever Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, or you go to like a shelter, or you speak to an addict to get like more information as to what that feels like. But it's not gonna work. I'm never gonna be like, oh, let me try crack and like get addicted to crack so I can play this role really well. Like is crazy. The only thing that I'm fine with, which adds to the performance, is when actors physically transform their bodies to take on a role. Like
Christian Bale.
Yeah, like Charlize Theron is the one that I think that had the most dramatic transformation when she won the Oscar for Monster.
The Monster?
Yeah, and she looked like she's one of the most beautiful women, and she looked horrific in that movie, and she did the whole transformation that I respect. But like, yeah, actors who are like, oh, I don't know what this feels like, so let me, be homeless and just not have a home for like 3 months to see what it is. I'm just like, you're doing too much.
Yeah, well, okay, so but you brought up the Joker, and I mean, I think that's a role that, okay, so Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, who did the Joaquin Phoenix? Thank you, Joaquin Phoenix, and then of course Jared Leto. But all of these three guys, they really took on the Joker in very different, nuanced ways. Would you say that there's certain roles that can be consuming?
Yeah, like I think that's what, I'm not sure how accurate it is, but they said that Heath Ledger I think he got addicted to like prescription medication from playing the Joker, and I think his portrayal, whose portrayal do I think is?
Fuck, that's his name.
It's between Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix's was like Joker before he became the Joker, so I don't want to compare him, but Heath Ledger was the Joker. So they're two different, points of Joker's life. But Heath Ledger, to me, if you're, comparing Joker, that would be the most, one of the, I would say, greatest acting performances of all time. Just because he was, just when I pay attention to little things that actors, do where it's like ticks, like in the movie, Heath Ledger always he flicks his tongue out a lot, like he always would lick as Joker. that was like, and he, to maintain that and to remember, like, it's not like just an accent, which he had to, obviously he's Australian, but to remember to do these ticks and things like that. There was the, oh God, I don't remember the name of the movie. Maybe someone can Google it, but it's with Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman. I think, and like Hugh Jackman has a family and they get kidnapped. His kids get kidnapped, and Jake Gyllenhaal plays like a detective. And in the movie, he has this like this hard eye blink where he's always blinking like this. But it's and he did that the whole movie. So to do that as an actor, to remember like Prisoners, yes, thank you. To remember to do that as an actor is very, very challenging, and if you can do that, that's really impressive. But yeah, I think there are roles that they're super, super dark, and it's so far away from your. That's why method acting is a bit dangerous, because you can lose yourself if you're not careful.
Right. So there's method acting. Are there other types of acting, or is it just method and like standard portrayal?
Like, yeah, there's method and
voice acting.
There's what?
Voice acting.
Yeah, I mean,
voice acting
that is a
acting,
performance. Yeah, that's definitely.
I'll take types of acting for 600, please.
There you go. But yeah, there's voice acting, which is its own thing, but yeah, it's like the other way is just like, let me interpret the character in the way that I think it would that this character would be, without having to do all of these things. Now, like I said, I've not tried method acting, just because I don't think it requires that to give a great performance. But who am I to say? If that's what works, that's what works.
If you were to act as like saying like a document, like I can't remember the name of it, but the one guy was Winston Churchill. Gary Oldman, I believe, was Winston Churchill. Is that method acting when you're like becoming that specific person? Or do you have to go to the extreme to be?
That's like method acting is like when Jim Carrey, he had that whole thing on Netflix. It was like Becoming Something.
Andy Kaufman?
Yeah, I think it was that one. And they were like, he would be in character all the time on set. He wouldn't go out of his voice. And I'm like, well, then at what point are you an actor? Because as an actor, you should be able to turn it on and off. For me, I've never in anything that I've ever been in, whether it was on film or television or theater, when the director says cut, I'm still in full character. I'm just like, turn it off and then turn it back on. But to me, like I said, I don't know the purpose of like, it's when they're like, I have to be, at all times, otherwise the performance isn't good. And I'm like, I don't know about that. If that's what works for you. But I think, again, it's probably just, I guess the word is psychosemantic, where you convince yourself that unless you do that thing,
right,
it's not going to be good. So
what's the most intense role you've ever played, would you say?
Intense role I've ever played would probably be the one I won my Jessie for, which was Superior Donuts. And that was a character who was very, very similar to me, but that was the first time I've ever had to learn how to cry on command. Whoa. Because that's what it said in the script. The director didn't actually ask me to. She was fine with, because if you're in a theater and it was a big theater, and people are not going to be able to tell if you're actually crying from however many seats away. But it was important to me because I was like, okay, it's clearly in the stage directions that my character cries. So, and I'd never had a role where it was like, you need to have like a breakdown. And I was like, all right. And there's one thing I can't stand is fake crying. I'm like, either cry or don't. I don't like the people who are just make the faces, but there's no tears. So I found a way to make myself go there. And it's funny, once you can go there, you can turn it on and off whenever you want. So,
okay. How did you teach yourself how to cry on command?
I don't know. It's like I don't know if I want to say, because it's like a magician's trick. I don't want people to know all of my process, but what I will say is you allow your mind to go to very, very dark scenarios, either that have happened in your life or that you witnessed, either through other people or through film, but just you zone out almost. You have to get to this like place of like tranquility where it's just, you're very still and your mind is very blank, and then it just flows through. And I cried. In that play I cried at the very end of the play, and it was like a character goes through this transformation. He's super, super positive and outgoing, and then at the end, like, life beats him down and he just gives up. And so I had to show that. So I was just like, there's a part of me as well that's like, okay, how would it feel to go through that? And now you have no hope where you had all of the hope before. And yeah, you stay still, and you let your mind just kind of go blank, and it goes into sort of an autopilot.
And how did I do?
Hey, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
Hey, look at you. There he goes.
I just didn't blink for a while.
Oh, yours is the no blinking trick? Okay.
Hold on. Give me a second. I got to clean myself up.
So did that take you a long time to figure this trick out, or did you learn it pretty quick?
It was, I learned it how to do it in a rehearsal. And I didn't expect that day that I was going to do it. Normally in rehearsals, you're just kind of going through scenes and you're starting and stopping at different places. So you're not really going through a complete scene all the way through unstopped. But in this particular instance, I was, and then I just, it was like, I just was like, all right, let's see if I can. And then, it was good because my character says very little, so I could get in that space while the other character is talking. And then I kind of was just still, and I felt sort of a pressure building behind my eyes, like tears. And then it's like I find if you go through the motion, so when you cry, your breathing gets normally very like kind of short and like kind of lip. If you do like a lip quiver, your body will start to
you could trick your body into
you trick your body essentially into crying, and then it becomes a bit more authentic when you actually are going through the process of understanding, like, wow, how incredibly depressing would it be if this actually happened to me, if I had all these things that got taken away from me and now I have nothing. And then once you can go there the first time, really easy to redo it. Like now, even if I think about it, it'll just automatically, I'll go there.
Yeah. I mean, I cry very easily, but it's because I see or hear something beautiful.
Right.
Like, I think I mentioned this previously, but I heard Alex Trebek's autobiography, and he's talking about his wife and this very beautiful moment. And I'm like painting in a public place. Yeah. And I'm like, I was ugly crying, and I was like, fuck, pull yourself together, Robert. Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, but you know what? When I cry, I let myself cry, and I think that's good to let your body do that, because you're crying for a reason, right? Yeah. No, you feel better after a cry. But I knew 100%.
I don't want to sound full of myself, but I was like, I'm gonna get that, Jesse, because when I felt that, it's hard to do only one eye. I've only seen like Denzel Washington do it. I think it was in Glory, and one tear comes out.
Great gift too.
Just on one side, the one tear, and I was like, that Jesse is mine.
But was it one or two?
I managed two on some nights, but I would say the majority of the nights it was just like a single tear that would just roll down, and I was like, yes.
And that scene in Glory where Denzel's crying, it's a different type of. It's like a, a kind of a gratitude and like.
Yeah. This was like despair.
Yes, which is very different tears.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have ever cried existential tears, but it is. It's insane. It's like you're like crumpled up and you're like, oh man. But then there's tears of joy. I mean, we could do an episode about tears. But
can I give you a fun fact?
Yeah.
Fun science fact for you. When a woman cries, it might not be just women, but maybe it's, from what I know, it's just women. when they cry and men can smell the tears, their testosterone goes down by 30%.
I did not know
There you
that.
go.
I didn't know that
Fun
tears
fact.
smelled like something.
They don't smell like something, but you can sniff it. Like you can just like your body can sniff it.
Interesting.
I've also heard that scientists, you know, you can Google this, but they took tears and they dehydrated them and then they fed them to rats or tried to, and it like was poisonous to the rats, the dehydrated tears, because your body is excreting the toxins. That's why you feel better, or sometimes you feel tired after you cry. So
cool.
There you go. Now back to what we originally started on is films that have made us who we are today. Now Jesse's not able to join us, but my hunch is I don't know this to be certain, but his favorite film or one of his favorite films was Lord of the Rings. I mean, he always tries to set marathons for that show, and it's like, dude, I don't have 27 hours. I'm sorry. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about the Hobbit films too. Oh. He's trying to numerate. I'm like, yeah, man, I'll be right over. I'm just kidding. I never get his hopes up.
Just watching 27 hours of people walking.
Now, for you guys, what film has sort of shaped you? Maybe it's philosophically, emotionally, spiritually, etc.
Chris, I'll let you go first, Chris.
The one that comes to mind, just because of the sheer volume of the times that I've rewatched this movie, God, no less than 50 times, is Mrs. Doubtfire. That I would say is probably like my favorite movie of all time, just because. And talk about an actor who can commit into a role and played two very distinct roles, and had you convinced that Mrs. in the movie, his family's convinced that this is a real woman. You think this is an entirely different character. And I remember at the time when I saw it, like my parents were divorcing, and if you've watched Miss Doubtfire, then you know that he and his wife are divorcing, and she gets primary custody. And in order to see his children, he poses as a housekeeper, and goes through the whole transformation. And I remember at the end, he has a whole monologue as Miss Doubtfire as the movie fades out, and he, about why it's don't blame yourself as kids when your parents split up. They sometimes, mommies and daddies are just much better apart than they are together. And then they can take better care of you, but it's not your fault. It's just the way of life. And I don't whatever at that age, I just remember that I was like, whether I could process it in all of its layers, I was just like, sometimes people just aren't meant to be together. And sometimes it's just better to be apart.
And it was a message that maybe you needed to hear, and
Yeah, I mean, it's odd because I never ever thought when my parents divorced it's my fault, and I don't actually remember even being upset about it. I don't have many memories of my parents together, maybe one or two, but it was just I was always used to them, not being together. But yeah, just I think just for me in life in general, it's just I was like, it's okay sometimes when things don't work out, no matter how much you want them to. Sometimes they just don't.
How old were you when your parents split, when that happened?
I don't want to date myself. I was very young. We'll put it that way.
Mrs. Doubtfire came out in 19... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. Wait. Now, the other thing I was thinking about is films that have culturally shaped us. But Bobby, what's the film for you? So is Miss Doubtfire for Chris? What about...
Yeah, I'm going to kind of cheat on this one, because I kind of have it's more of a category, but I'm wearing my Cucumbers jersey, which is from the film Hardball.
Oh,
you guys seen that one?
I have not.
You have not? It's a
Keanu Reeves. We're going to the ship.
Yeah. Love you when you call me Big Papa. But Yeah, I'm not much of a deep philosophical guy like you guys are. I usually just watch movies and I'm like, oh, cool, that's what happened. And everyone's like, well, did you get the deeper meaning? And I'm like, no, they played baseball. They won. Cool. But so my thing is kind of just like sports films in general, and you can basically just take your pick. But Hardball is going to be mine specifically. But usually what happens in sports films is you got some sort of underdog who goes up against the best team that they can possibly put together, and somehow this ragtag group of little rascals and nobodies, somehow they end up winning the championship. And as a guy who plays a lot of sports, I always saw that and went, I can win a championship too. And so I never count out the underdog, even if I'm the guy on top, which I've been on a few teams that have been that way and I have lost. And so sometimes those sports movies do definitely come true. I've also been on the other side of that, where we are the garbage team going up against the top dogs, and we've prospered and won. So it's kind of that never give up, anyone can win at any time kind of mentality. I've always enjoyed that kind of thing. It's helped me in sports.
There's a few movies that, and I mean, my favorite trope or cliche is the last 3 seconds that last for 3 minutes. And you're like, they are able to do a lot in 3 seconds. Like, I think he's passed it to 10 people. Yeah. 10 people have passed the puck.
Like, or the basketball ones where they're like, 3 seconds.
Yeah. That was Air Bud.
Yeah.
There, bud. Yeah, and if you hate those moments, you will not like anime, because anime is literally in the middle of a fight. Dude's about to get punched, has an entire 10-minute monologue about why this is whatever moment, and then has flashbacks, and I'm like, you had all this, and like his fist was right here, you thought of all of this? All right.
I dig it.
Well, but sometimes in the sports movies, they don't always, like, some of them they don't win, but yet they come away from it and they've learned something, right? So the one that kind of sticks out to me, did you guys ever see Remember the Titans? I
love Remember the Titans. That's another
long time ago.
That's another amazing movie. Yeah.
That was a great movie. Yeah. I remember seeing that film with my parents, and I was, I don't know, like 8. I'm dating myself here. And it was really long, and we got home at like 12:31, and then I had to go to school the next day, and I was like sleeping, and my teacher's like, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm like, I saw a film last night. My teacher's like, what's wrong with your parents? Or whatever. But yeah, that was a great film. But and there were elements of it that I didn't really like, because the film talks a lot about race, and growing up, I mean, where I grew up, the community I was in, there were different ethnicities, and I had friends of different walks of life. So I was like, why are they being dicks to these people? Like, to these different groups? Why did that guy just throw a brick through his window? I didn't get these things, but then you get older, and then you rewatch these films, and you're like, whoa, okay, now I'm seeing this in a different perspective.
Yeah, you probably just thought they were just on the other team. Like, oh, they really don't like that team.
Well, I
when you're young.
I mean, yeah, parts of me still really don't understand why people are prejudiced towards others, to be honest. But I didn't really knew that was a thing then, if that makes sense. Because in my community growing up, I don't recall experiencing any of that, right? But Chris, you enjoyed that film.
I did. No, I saw that. I didn't see it when it first came out. I saw that like my mid-teens, maybe. But yeah, no, I knew what it was about. I knew the elements of it, but I just thought, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just really, really strong performances. You're not really going to find a movie with Denzel that isn't good. And then there's a lot of people, or there was Ryan Gosling was in there when he was still like just doing his little bit parts, and now he's like a A-list superstar. But yeah, back then he had like a little bitty part. And yeah, it was just super, super well acted. And it's a movie that's really easy to follow. And you see the transformation of these characters, which I always like, transformations. But yeah, no, it was a great film.
Yeah, because just the premise for anybody who hasn't seen it, this is around the Brown versus Board of Education when they get rid of segregation.
Yeah.
So that the schools come together and they're all like, oh, you can't do that. And there's the white coach and he becomes the assistant coach.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a city was historically segregated, right? And talks about the Civil War and things like that. Because I remember Denzel takes him for a jog, and then I was like, again, I didn't understand the significance of it. My dad had to like explain it to me. So,
yeah,
because he was a history buff. We had always watched the History Channel at like, dinner time and stuff, and it'd be like my mother'd be like, "What the fuck, Gary? Turn this off. The children are watching it." It's like World War II. And I'm like, whoa. Anyways, that's my parenting or my experiences of parenting growing up. My film. No, Chris, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, speaking of World War II, another great film, which is a foreign film. Well, I don't like that word. It is an Italian film. And it's Life is Beautiful, and it's like one of the only comedies about World War II, but it's like brilliantly acted by, I feel like his name is Benicio, maybe not.
Robert Benigni.
Benigni. Yeah, he won the Oscar for that. It was one of the most beautiful. That's one that you'll cry at, and if you don't have a soul. But that was such a beautiful movie. Yeah.
Because and is it okay if I share the premise?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because my understanding, and I've never seen it.
Oh, you need to watch that.
No. It's a Jewish father and his son, and the Holocaust is like the German soldiers are rounding up Jewish people, and he's making a game out of it so that the kid his son isn't afraid. Innocence.
Yeah. So his son keeps his innocence. They're separated.
And you connect like, oh man, as a parent, you just as anybody.
Yeah. But it's just brilliant how this his priority is his child. Doesn't want his child to lose his innocence. Also doesn't want his kid to, be killed. So he's like, it's a game and we're going to get points. And at the end, he's like, we're going to win, the prize is a tank. And it's just, it's a beautiful movie.
Cool.
But now sorry, go ahead.
Did you ever see that show Jojo Rabbit?
No, I did not, but I know that that's what it's about. And then, this is a really good World War II movies. Meryl Streep, who she's the GOAT actress for a reason. She learned how to speak Polish. She learned how to speak German with a Polish accent because her character was Polish who spoke German, which is an incredibly difficult thing because not just German. Wow. We need you to be Polish. She learned an entire language to play this role. And so Sophie's Choice is the movie, and it's like it's where she has to. The Nazi guard asks her to choose which child we're gonna take. She has a daughter and a son, and she's like, I can't. And he's like, if you don't, we kill all of you. But anyways, that's another, speaking of World War II. But no, Rob, please go ahead and tell us your favorite movie that we already know.
Well, everybody knows it's Lion King.
There it is.
But the other film that I was thinking about that I'm like, oh man, it gets me every time. And maybe it's dated, but it's Forrest Gump.
Great film.
There's just something about that film, and it's like Forrest Gump, and he's this simpleton, let's just call him that, whatever. You could make fun of him, or people make fun of him, whatever. But he changes the world in like just being himself, and like he's not even trying to. He's just haphazardly going through life. Obviously, there's some dated messages in the film, Bubba Gump, which that role was originally Dave Chappelle was offered that role. And he turned it down because of it was, right prejudice. But in that film, and then his son, and when he's speaking to everybody's seen it, but when he's speaking to Jenny at the end, man, I get ugly tears every time. And he's just like, I'm gonna do my best to be a father for this kid. And I don't know, there's just something about that film. And then there's Lieutenant Dan, who's this angry guy, and he's just like, why won't you let me die? And Forrest Gump's like, because I'm just your friend. And just that film is just, it's beautiful. And it's how it sort of treats the ugliness of war and things like that. And I don't know, there's something about that film that is just very special to me. And I was thinking about this and the characters. Then there's Jenny, and she's just running away from everything and perhaps just running away from her path. And this idea at the beginning of the movie, there's two sort of messages. I wrote a paper on it in university. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, but that's what you get. But then it's also the feather blowing in the wind. And it's like, are we just the feather that's just kind of carried through life? And, or do we have ownership of life? Do we sort of take it, do we make the most of it? Or again, is it just a box of chocolates? Like, you're just like, hey, that's what you got. But it's chocolates. They're all good. Right? You make you just enjoy it. I don't know. There's a lot of messages in that film.
Another great one of Tom Hanks, another amazing movie is I don't like overusing the word amazing. Another quality film is The Green Mile.
Classic.
Which is a Stephen King book.
Yeah, I prefer The Green Mile to Forrest Gump. I just I don't know. I think what was his name? Michael Clark Duncan. Yeah. He who has passed away. He, I don't know, just seeing a big like hulking guy, and if you've ever heard his speaking voice, it is incredibly deep and like almost menacing in quality. And in that, he's like this little childlike, kind of figure who's you don't really feel danger with him, even though he's massive. And
he was amazing as Kingpin in Daredevil.
Yeah.
He was really good in that one.
Yeah. There was that. He was in Sin City. Dude with the gold eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, he usually plays like very, those kind of characters. But in that one, that was like a complete, he
was in Talladega Nights. That was a profound film.
Great sports film.
Yeah. But no, that was a great movie about like redemption, and so that was great. A random one. I love Sister Act. That's another one I can watch
with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, multiple times, and I never get tired of it. And I'm like, I know exactly what's gonna happen, but it just makes
that's like a comfort film.
Yeah, it makes me feel good every time I see it.
Yeah. Anchorman was that for me.
Okay.
I love that film.
That'd be Indiana Jones for me.
Which one?
Probably Last Crusade, but I mean,
Temple of Doom was mine.
Temple of Doom? That was a good one.
Yeah, that was the one I could watch all the time.
What was the first one called? Temple of Doom was the second.
Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first one.
Yes. Yeah.
The thing I loved about that one, I want to get the right. It came out in like 1981, I think. Like it was 1981. Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I found was crazy.
Yeah.
To have such it's not like it's cinematically like some spectacular, special effects or anything, but to have a movie of that quality in the early 80s, I was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. But yes, The Lion King. Okay, so yeah.
Tell us why you like The Lion King.
Oh man, it's the best movie of all time.
For the audience, not for us.
It's the GOAT. It's the GOAT. It is the GOAT. I met a person one time. No, you're right. There's not one goat in it. There's a gazelle, and that's not a goat.
Goatzelle. Yeah.
Yeah. But I met somebody one time. They're like, Lion King's a shitty film, and I almost punched him in the fucking head.
If they're talking about the new one, then yes.
Oh, the new one was trash.
Hated it.
You know, it was bad because this is my perspective. It was bad because they demystified it. They demystified it. Like Scar, the guy who did Scar, I don't know that actor's name, and he is a good actor because he was in Doctor Strange. He was awesome in that.
Ejiofor Chiwetel.
Yeah, he was not good as Scar. He was flat. He was flat.
Well, all of them, with the exception, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm not a fan of this whole Disney reboot into live action.
Cinderella was awesome. Cinderella was dope.
There was a live action Cinderella?
Yep.
There was?
Is
it old?
I own it on Blu-ray.
Whoa.
Which one was this? I don't even remember that. Live action Cinderella?
Yeah. It was great. I'm not pulling anyone's middle leg here either.
Like 2015?
I don't know.
Kate Blanchett was the stepmother?
Yeah. It was great.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah. I remember seeing it after I went to Mexico, and I was super hungover on the airplane. And I remember watching the film, and I was like, the chemistry here is just beautiful. Like, there would never be a reason why I'd watch Cinderella ever, except for it was the flight home. And I was like, I have to try not to throw up here.
But yeah, this fascination that Disney has with rebooting cartoons, like leave Aladdin alone, leave Beauty and the Beast alone, leave all of these films alone. But yeah, with the Lion King, I was just like, it's your lines are not, you're not going to get the expressions. They're going to look like literally like you're watching like something on National Geographic if you want it to look realistic. And then the voice you got James Earl Jones. You couldn't get the rest. Like, I could understand maybe omitting, the actors like for Zazu, or like characters that are not that distinct in terms of voice, but like, I was like, why didn't you just get Scar's voice actor? Like, the two most definitive voice actors in that were James Earl Jones, and I feel like Scar's voice actor is
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons. There you go. Those two are the most like unique in the entire film. You couldn't have got, if you got James Earl Jones, you couldn't have got Jeremy Irons, really.
Yeah.
And then
whatever happened to Jeremy Irons, though?
I don't know. He narrated a few things on like National Geographic, and all you hear is Scar, because his normal speaking voice, and I've watched interviews with him, it's Scar. There's no tricks or anything. Like, James Earl Jones has to sort of go to a deeper register to do Mufasa, but like,
he's the greatest father of all time, James Earl Jones.
Yeah,
Darth Vader as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it was just I feel like they just got a bunch of like A-list actors. I'm like, why is Childish Gambino playing Simba? It just felt, I could hear them reading the script. I
100% agree.
And Can You Feel the Love Tonight is for some reason sung in the afternoon. Like, it's not even at nighttime when they're singing this. I was, and it just felt like, duet with Beyonce. Like, she was singing the hell out of that song, but I'm like, the whole point of the song is that they're not singers. Like, it's just like they're supposed to have very simple melodies, and it just felt like she was just like, I'm gonna fucking own this song. Like, but it didn't call for that. This was not the time. This is the time to sort of turn Beyonce down a bit. Yeah.
I mean,
Jeremy Irons. Sorry, Rob, but Jeremy Irons is he's wasting his time being Alfred in the Justice League. That's what he's spending his time doing.
What?
Oh, he's Alfred?
Apparently, I had no idea.
Apparently, that movie was terrible.
It's a shit movie.
Like, they made a 4-hour like the uncut Zack Snyder version, and it's like, dude, nobody's watching this movie to begin with.
Why did you want this?
It was so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, movies that will never be on anybody. Oh, that's not true. I was gonna say all DC movies are awful. However, the Dark Knight series, those were great, and then Joker was also great. So I can't say that about them, but everything else except for their Batman stuff, everything else is trash.
Well, I'm very skeptical about the new Batman with Twilight.
Twilight, dude.
Why do they keep
Edmonton,
rebooting
Hutchinson.
it? For the life of me, I can't understand.
Like you had it with Christian. Well,
Harrington.
why do you think though, Chris? Money.
Yeah, but it's just like, how many times are you going to pay money to see the same origin story told over and over? I don't even know how many Batman actors there are at this point. But
Well, that shitty Lion remake took my money twice. I saw it twice in theaters. The second time I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's a great film? 300, which again, that is like very culturally inappropriate. But the second time I saw it, like the first time I saw it, I was like, what did I just watch? The second time I saw it, I was like, I am a man. Whatever that means now. But I was like, yeah. I was like, Spartans. And I was like, and now that I look back, I'm like, I could see how that film would offend people. They're just, talking about killing Persians the whole time.
Oh, I did not know that. No, I haven't.
Have you not seen 300?
Nope.
Isn't that what's the movie's supposed
You're not
to be about?
missing much. What?
Isn't that just what the movie's about? Like
it's
a
about
battle between.
It's about 300 soldiers. And
is it not a true story?
Well, that's based on the Frank Miller graphic novel, but it is based on actual events. But they didn't have actual like demon creatures. And then did you see how they represented Jewish people in that film? Whew! Looking back, man, like this is the crazy thing is that now as I get older, I watch things and I'm like anytime I see a Kevin Spacey film, I get creeps. I'm like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like in light of knowing like Horrible Bosses, I watch that film now and I'm like, like I get like gross feelings. But I apologize. Do you guys mind if I explain to you why Lion King is my favorite film of all time?
Go ahead.
No, pass. Chris, what do you want to talk about?
Philadelphia Eagles. No, the reason why the cartoon is the greatest film of all time, for me, is because the story is all about being who you are, not forgetting who you are. But sometimes you do have to lose your way to know what your way is, right? I mean, the story is so ancient. It's the return of the prodigal son. It's Hamlet. It's so many archetypes and stories, but it's told in a way that for me was so captivating. And the music of the 90s version was great. Although Chris and I got in a heated argument that Phil Collins is better than Elton John.
No, that was not the argument. The argument
I know.
that the Tarzan soundtrack
was more him
like
than
hits.
Yes. No,
because Elton John really just does like the two main songs, "Circle of Life," and
that aren't even in the movie.
His versions come at the end. But if the Tarzan, the animated one, Phil Collins is singing throughout the entire thing, and to me, the score is just much better.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Amazing song.
Yeah.
But yeah, the story of, he loses his father and then he runs away and he parties in the jungle, which I did a lot of in my 20s. And then he's like, okay, well, I guess I got to stop partying. I got to go do what I'm supposed to do. But then when he sees his dad, well, that's what encourages him to go back. He sees his dad in the sky. Man, every time that film hits me, and I've seen that movie a lot. I've seen that movie like at least 200 times. Mm-hmm. Have I watched it in its entirety 200 times? No. But, when I get home from the bar, I'd start it and then pass out. But anyways,
fun fact, I want to play and like, well, we'll say, I think they still would do it on Broadway. I want to play Rafiki. I have wanted to play Rafiki for the longest time. That was always my favorite because he's the as Charlemagne puts it, he's like Rafiki's like the old, guy that people think, he's crazy, whatever it is, always talking about, but he's the wisest one out of all of them.
He's sage. He's sage. Yeah.
But I just, I want
to shaman.
Well, and it's like, Oh, you know my father? Simba asked him, you know my father?
Sure do.
Yeah. Correction, I know your father.
yeah.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but he's dead.
Wrong again.
Yeah. And then apparently when he's off screen and he's like dancing, he's like squash banana and he's saying like you're an idiot or something like that. He's like taunting him. And then he hits him in the head and he's like, who was that for?
Doesn't matter.
It was in the past. I was like, damn. We all need.
No, that's where you get all the lessons is in that little part of the film where it's just like all the stuff that you apply as an adult, where it's just like, yeah, well, it hurts. And yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it.
Yeah.
Then he hits him again.
You got the part for sure. Done.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're hired.
You got that. Yeah. I'd watch that.
It'll happen one day. And then Genie, I've been told by one of the people who was actually responsible for me even having an acting career, my old boss, he was like, I want to see you play Genie on Broadway. Keep saying that. Genie was never my I loved Robin.
Yes.
I refuse to see Aladdin because Will Smith, stop. You have enough money. You don't need to say yes to
I thought you loved Will Smith, Chris.
No,
I thought you loved Will Smith and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Two actors that can never convince me that they've fully made the transformation. Maybe they should try method acting I don't know. But every time I see Will Smith in anything, I'm like, oh, it's Will Smith playing as da-da-da-da. It's Leonardo DiCaprio playing as da-da-da-da. Because their speech patterns don't change. Their inflections remain quite similar in all of their movies. So you're always aware that you're, who you're watching. I much prefer, like, when Meryl Streep acts, it's a completely different character every single time, and she loses herself in it every single time. But yeah, I'm just like with Will, and I was like, as the Genie, like, why as the Genie? No one will ever be able to top Robin Williams' performance as a Genie, and it wasn't necessary. But all that to say that yes, that's another one that I've been told that I need to play on Broadway is Genie.
I would love to see that. I mean,
if I join you on Broadway, can I be Ed?
You want the hyena, Ed? Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Need a longer tongue.
Fun fact, Rob, that I just came across this on my Instagram feed. Apparently, there's a theory now that Scar ate Mufasa.
That's bullshit. No,
that's not okay.
That's fuck that shit.
Scar is Mufasa?
Don't try to fuck with my childhood.
Do tell.
Well, because like
no. I'll explain it. I'll explain it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll explain it. So he dies. Mufasa dies, and then Simba runs off. Yeah. If you don't know that, now you know. Anyways, so there's one part. Oh my goodness, I can't even think. Zazu is in the prison, and he's like singing, and Scar is playing with like a skull. And then they're like, oh, what do who eats lions? Lions eat lions. And then they're implying that skull is Mufasa. Here's why that's bullshit. Is because when Simba comes out and it's like, and Scar sees him, he goes, Mufasa. So fuck you.
Oh,
right? Yeah. Why would he be surprised if he ate him? That's bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with that. I'm right. I'm right. Yeah, I know I'm right. I'm probably wrong about everything, but I'm right about that.
You debunked it.
I know my shit.
Now, one thing you can't deny, though, is that Simba and Nala are siblings who have a child together.
Well, yes, actually, that's a good point because there's
there's no
in a pride. There's only I've often thought about that, and I'm like,
they are brother and sister.
Damn,
because there are no other male lions. There's a bunch of lionesses. There are no male lions.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's a stud. Yeah. Which, by the way, is a hilarious thing. Whenever you call somebody a stud, you're saying that they're a male horse that's used solely for reproduction. Yeah, buddy, you're a stud.
Sounds accurate.
Worst fates in the world.
There's worse things in the world. That's true. Yeah. Well, another great film that you know what? Okay, so now I've started showing Sophia kids movies of the past, and this is really cool because I'm reliving these moments. And the one that we've recently started watching, Shrek. Such great films, man. But
hilarious.
Sometimes, like, so much time has passed. You watch these films again, and you're like, wow, I forgot how much of an impact this movie had on me. Like when they're walking to the dragon's lair to get Princess Fiona, and he's like, just don't look down. And then the thing slips, and Eddie Murphy donkey is like, Shrek, I'm looking down. I'm like, that's like there's so many classes. Like if you rewatch that movie, well, depending on how many times you've seen it, but you're like, oh, I remember this scene by scene by scene.
Yeah.
It might be that one, or it could be the second one. But when they enter the castle, what was his name, Lord Farquhar, and they have like the little, like, I don't know how you explain it, but the like little puppet show they have, and they're like explaining the castle, and they're doing like the little ditty that they're going, and they have to something mow the grass, something, and then wash your, and they like turn their butt, and you think they're gonna say ass and face. I rewatched that 1,000 times. And I love it. It's hilarious.
The funny thing about Shrek is that, like, the best kids movies have things in it for adults, right? Mm-hmm. Like, nothing's worse than like watching The Wiggles or something, and you're like, oh my god, there's nothing
I like
in this
stuff that they don't dumb down for kids. That they just keep it the same so you can get the lesson. I don't like all this just where it's just let's distract kids with colors and no real messages. It's like, no, show them old school Disney movies and like anything from the 90s, really. I think that kids can take something from,
So what kids movie do you think to you stands out as having the best message? And why is it Lion King?
Well, I was going to say Lion King is the first one that comes to mind. The other one is Fern Gully. That was a favorite of mine growing up. I love Fern Gully.
What was the message of that again?
Like, Fern Gully is essentially what Avatar is. Like, Fern Gully was just cartoon Avatar to me. It was just like nature, and it was like man's interference with, they're cutting down the lasts of the rainforests in the world, and it's like the rainforests are protected by these fairies, and there's the main character is Zach, who works for like the company that's cutting down the trees, and he's like marking the trees with these spray painted X's, which are poison to trees, and he unleashes like this destructive spirit that was trapped in a tree. But like the fairies who are protectors of the rainforest, they're explaining like everything is alive in here and you need it. Like they give us, the trees give us life. It gives you air. It gives the clouds and everything like that. Like you can't live without this. And we're seeing very, very quickly, like they were talking about pollution back then.
Yes.
You're seeing nowadays, it's like, yeah, you need all of these, things. And we're just killing. I saw on Twitter, there was some guy who made a comment. He was just like, wouldn't it be nice if like trees could like give us like Wi-Fi? Like it would be nice if they would like be useful like that. And then a person responded, they were like, yeah, they just give off oxygen, but who needs that? Wi-Fi. That's where
It's kind of like I heard this. I saw this one Twitch. They're like, somebody needs to invent Netflix, but for books. And then someone's like, yeah, it's called a library.
Yes, literally.
Right? I think it's one of the Jenners or something like that. This person says, Lunch Ox says, so what about Deep Throat? I've never seen that film. What's the story there? What's the synopsis of it?
It's the story about the porn star that could really like deep throat. I've seen like
do tell, Chris.
Yeah,
I've seen clips.
What's the hidden message?
Because I was just like, all right.
The meaning is, if you really believe in yourself, you can put a lot down your throat.
You can take the weight of the world.
There's this new movie out. I don't know why that made me think of it, but it's called Zola. Have you heard of this film? Okay. Well, anyways, apparently it's like a show to be seen or something. So now
is it the bad guy from like Buzz Lightyear? Is that his name? Oh, Zurg, not Zola. Never mind.
Another great film, Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story.
I'm reading this book, right? Or excuse me. Hey, Chris, what do you think's better, reading a book or listening to an audiobook?
Reading.
And how so?
Maybe it's just because I'm from the old school and we didn't have audiobooks. But it's just like having a book, being in a space where you only focus on that. I usually like to read at the beach. Haven't been in a while, but it's just having a book and seeing the progress and everything like that. I think the first book I ever read was Jacob Tutu, followed by Moby Dick, which I was way too young to read Moby Dick. There's too many themes and symbolism that I would have never understood as a child. But having a book rather than just, I don't know, listening to it it's not the same.
More passive.
Yeah, like you can distract yourself when you're listening on like an audiobook. You can be doing a whole bunch of other things and be just listening, but not be aware of what you're listening to. And a book, you have to process what you're reading.
So two types of books, fictional, non-fictional, right? Mm-hmm. To me, non-fictional is like an informative book. So I've been listening to a lot of non-fictional books while I've been working, but I haven't been listening to any fictional books. A non-fictional book is like, do you really get into it, or are you just hearing facts? Versus if I was listening to Don Quixote versus reading it, what would I get more out of? And kind of to your point, it's like a fictional book, you can get into the world more, right? Like Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. What would be better? To listen to that, I mean, that's just the easiest example I can think of. To listen to that as an audiobook or to read it. And I think you're right. Reading fictional books, this is my perspective, are meant to be read. But non-fictional books, I think it can be either way.
I might go against you on that one. I might say the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Non-fiction, I would want to process it. I'd probably want to read it. But a fiction one, you can kind of play around it. Like say if it was Harry Potter, you could have somebody do the Harry Potter voices as it's going. You could have multiple people even read the book and have the different characters as they go.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of add an extra element for a fictional book, whereas a nonfiction, you're just kind of, if you're just learning stuff, you should probably learn it from a book.
Or from what do you like better? A book read by an audio book read by the author, or just read by a professional
author every time?
100%.
Every time.
100%. Totally agree with you on that one.
No, you get the inflections, you get the pauses, you get the voice characteristics. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And my original point with this is I'm listening to this book, Springfield Confidential, which is all about the Simpsons and the process behind making it. And it's a really cool book. And but it's just like you never realize that this is a show that's had so much of an influence on us that it's almost invisible. Did you guys ever get into The Simpsons?
Love The Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
Up until like season 14 when it started to die. Because now it's just, they used to be like cutting edge and smart, but you can only reinvent the wheel but so many times before it's just you're just doing the same thing over again. But when it was at its peak cutting edge and all the things that they predicted very strangely,
that stuff's crazy,
but The Simpsons at that time, if you lived through it, was that show. You never missed it on a Sunday. And it was just like, I used to grown adults used to laugh at The Simpsons, but nowadays it's like they've dumbed it down and it's just like, it's all about I feel like as technology gets more advanced, storytelling gets more lazy.
Why is that, do you think? Because I have a theory, but
it's with anything. I mean, it's like when you make something from scratch, whether it's a home or a meal, something like that, not having the little things that cut the corners, it's a better product. So back when they had to think of these are, cartoon characters. We're going to, the yellow cartoon characters. How do we make this, interesting and appealing? And it's like, we don't want it to be a kid's show. We want it to appeal to like adults, but also kids could watch it too. But yeah, so it's like you had to be cutting edge. Like you had to be, which was my point when on an earlier one of our lives, which is like back in the day, to be a singer, you actually had to sing. You couldn't not sing and be a singer. You couldn't have a show. I feel like the 90s is like golden era for TV, but you couldn't have a show in the 90s and it wouldn't last. Like you had to have something there, but now it's just like whatever, shocking, whatever, throw it out there and it'll stick.
Well, why do you think they were painted yellow, The Simpsons?
I took an animation class and my teacher told me this. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was just because it was like, I don't know, that they would just pop a bit more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say they probably just didn't. I would assume they would be white, but I'm sure they don't have like the white wouldn't really come through in a cartoon like that. I don't think, especially back in like when did it first come out? 80s or 90s?
90.
It was just the 90s? Or was it in the 80s?
88.
It was in the 88? I bet you they just didn't have the technology good enough just to have just a white coloring, I suppose.
Right. Yeah,
but,
it's just...
Well, but the other thing, there's two sort of explanations. Is the yellow is iconic. So if you're flipping through the channels and you see yellow people, you're like, Simpsons.
Yeah.
And the second one is that yellow as a cut, and this is like color theory. I read this. I'm not saying I know this. Is saying that yellow pops out to our senses. So when we see the color yellow, like Chris's picture, the color that I look at is the yellow on there. Like your eyes are drawn to it. So that's why they did that as well.
Yeah.
It's one of the theories. There's another theory that the show The Simpsons is really through the perspective of Homer, and that how we see the characters is really through Homer's perspective. That's why Marge is this domestic kind of servile lady. And then there's Bart, who's like this, he's just a rebel. There's Lisa, who's like, she's so smart that she's like almost a threat. And then there's Maggie, and it's like, he can't even communicate with her, right? That's why she never speaks. And then how the show will end is with his passing. Because the show has to end sooner or later, right?
I mean how much they dragged it on far enough. I'm like, just end the show, guys. You've told every possible story. Like, just, you have enough money. Please end it.
I can just keep predicting the future as they do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just why they do it.
Yeah.
Well, they predicted that Donald Trump would die, right?
They
predicted a lot of things.
Yeah. They predicted his presidency. So there you go.
Yeah.
Like exactly in the way that it looked too. Like he came down the escalator with the Trump thing, and I was like, that is too coincidental.
Yeah. Well, Springfield Confidential is great book. Check it out if you're interested in that. I just looked at the time here. It's an hour and 13 minutes. So closing thoughts, anybody on films and what they mean to us? I mean, it's quite obvious, but
to quickly go back to the Disney one, the Disney ones, when they do those live action ones, and they're just basically, you're just taking something that's already done and then recycling it into something new.
Yeah.
As it's lazy writing. But that what the fuck was it called? Cruella, that new one. I haven't seen it yet. But the idea behind having a character that was already used, but then giving her a storyline, I thought that was brilliant. I don't know how this. I've heard it's a good film, but just the fact that they took David. You don't like that?
I I'm like,
why is that?
whatever. The thing with Disney was like, I didn't want to know the character's backstory. Like, if you were evil, the character was just evil. I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to humanize Cruella. I'm so mad that they humanized Maleficent. Like, to me, the thing that made Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty scary was that the entire movie is about her being so offended that she didn't get invited to a birthday party that she plots a child's death. She's so petty that she's like, I am going to make sure that you suffer for the
I try to avoid going to kids' birthday parties.
Yeah, and she's just like, how dare you? Do you know who I am? And it's just like, yeah, I don't want with when they did with Snow White and the Queen's backstory, I was like, I just want them to be like evil for the sake of being evil. I don't need a backstory on why the Queen Snow White is evil, why Maleficent is evil, why Cruella. I'm just like, that's why it was nice. In the only live remake that I actually liked was 101 Dalmatians, because I hated the cartoon. But the remake with Glenn Close's Cruella, she just wanted a damn fur coat. That's all I need to know. I want a fur coat. I want spots. In hindsight, she could have literally just dyed spots on a white mink. But she was like, I want these goddamn dogs.
Yeah.
And I'm authentic. Yeah. And has one of the best, by the way. That should be another topic of discussion. Best evil laughs of all time. Cruella from that movie. I don't even think she can replicate it to this day. Glenn Close, the actress who played Cruella, one of the most iconic evil laughs you will ever hear.
Sick.
Yeah.
Can you do an evil laugh?
I can, but I don't want to.
No. I don't like being like, do it. Yeah.
I usually people who work with me at work will hear it all the time, because it will usually involve like when somebody's asking like what the wait time is to come in, and I'm like, it's an hour and a half, and then I'll just hang up and just maniacally laugh. Oh, there goes Chris again, being petty. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
I can do the oh fuck. No, can't do it. Never mind. I was going to do an evil clown laugh, but yeah, no, I was about to do it. I was like, no, I can feel my vocal cords just seizing up. Never mind.
What one can you do?
I could do like an evil clown laugh, but that would
yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I'm not going to do it though.
Yeah. Well,
I won't do it.
You can interrupt me at any time. But I was going to say to Chris that some of the best villains, though, when we hear their backstory, it makes us understand them better. Like, but somebody like Cruella de Vil.
Disney. Disney villains don't need,
because these are absolute evils. Yeah. Right? Like that's the whole point.
And it's like the story.
This is Satan.
Like these people are not even like, if you don't want to think about it like, oh, they're pure evil, but it's just like the Snow White, the queen was so narcissistic that the thought of someone being more beautiful with her drove her into a murderous rage. That's enough for me. Cruella was so obsessed with fashion and looking good that she was willing to kill puppies to get this fur coat. Maleficent was so angry that she didn't get invited to a birthday party that she plotted an infant child's death 16 years down the road. Ursula was banished, to the lower parts of the sea. So she was like, I'm plotting my rule. Like, that's all I need. I don't need like, oh, Maleficent's real story is actually that she was in love with this boy and then it became this. And I'm like, no. Like, sometimes it's okay to say no.
In Rapunzel, Tangled, which I thought that was a great film, Tangled. What was the witch's name?
I didn't see that.
Okay, well, for hers, it almost kind of made sense. Like, she wanted to protect her, but then it's like she wanted to stay young because of Rapunzel's hair. But that was a good movie, actually, Tangled.
Yeah.
I know we're wrapping up, but did you ever see the Gotham series?
No.
When they did the backstory for all the villains of Batman?
No.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. There was a season where monsters came out and they all had powers. It was kind of weird, but that like they brought up like the Penguin is kind of the main character, sort of like one of them, and he was basically just like a busboy for someone. And I think there's 4 seasons or something like that, but they bring him up to be like this evil penguin mastermind behind what's the ice place? I can't remember, the Penguin Lair or whatever. But yeah, no, I love villains a lot, and fucking give me all the backstories that you can. Sorry, Chris.
All good.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. And you're like,
God, that was
really?
That should be the next episode. Worst movies of all time.
Oh,
that
yeah.
is on that list.
Yes. Yeah. Tim Burton, what were you thinking? That guy had to have done acid, and lots of it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I'm probably wrong about everything except for Mufasa being eaten by Scar.
That's true.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you guys. So
before we leave, there it is.
wow, you didn't even, that gave me shivers.
That wasn't
was
me
amazing.
that did it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for listening. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.